Tomorrow never arrives. The date never changes. The clock resets, but everything else stays the same. At first, it feels like a glitch, a strange coincidence that can be explained, dismissed, or ignored, but as the pattern repeats again and again, it becomes impossible to deny. The same morning, the same sounds, the same conversations, the same sequence of events unfolding in exactly the same way, no matter what is expected to happen next. At the beginning, the experience is confusing but not immediately terrifying. There is time to test it, to observe it, to question whether it is real or simply a mistake in perception. Small details confirm the truth. Every word spoken by others matches perfectly, every action follows the same path, and every attempt to predict the next moment succeeds with complete accuracy. This realization changes everything. If the same day repeats endlessly, then nothing done carries forward in the traditional sense. Consequences reset. Actions disappear. The future becomes inaccessible, replaced by an infinite present that cannot be escaped. At first, this might seem like an opportunity. Without long-term consequences, risks lose their meaning. Mistakes can be undone simply by waiting for the reset. Knowledge accumulates even as the world around remains unchanged. Patterns become clear, and control over events increases as familiarity grows. But control has limit. While it becomes possible to predict what will happen, it does not become possible to change everything. Certain events resist alteration, either because they are too complex or because they depend on factors beyond immediate influence. The loop reveals not just predictability, but also constraint. Over time, the psychological effects begin to emerge. Repetition erodes novelty, and without novelty, motivation begins to decline. Experiences lose their impact when they are known in advance. Conversations become scripts, interactions become performances, and the world starts to feel less like a place of possibility and more like a system running on repeat. Memory becomes the only thing that changes. While everything resets externally, internal awareness continues to accumulate, creating a growing divide between the unchanging world and the evolving mind. This imbalance introduces a unique form of isolation, where no one else shares the experience or remembers what has happened before. Attempts to escape the loop begin naturally. Different actions are taken, different choices are made, and different paths are explored, but each attempt ends the same way, with the reset. The day restarts, and all external changes are erased. Only memory remains, carrying forward the knowledge of what has already been tried. As the loop continues, the perception of time begins to distort. Days no longer feel like days because they do not lead anywhere. Instead, they become cycles, each one identical in structure but different in experience depending on the actions taken. The concept of progression disappears, replaced by repetition without end. Eventually, the question shifts from how to escape to how to exist within it. If the loop cannot be broken, then survival becomes a matter of adaptation. Meaning must be created within a system that does not naturally provide it, and purpose must be defined without reference to a future that never arrives. As the loop continues indefinitely, the long-term psychological effects become more pronounced, transforming the experience from a curiosity into a fundamental challenge to identity and perception. Without progression, the traditional markers of time, growth, change, and achievement lose their relevance, forcing a redefinition of what it means to exist within a fixed system. The accumulation of memory creates a unique form of expertise. Every detail of the day becomes known, every variation explored, and every possible outcome tested. Over time, this leads to a level of understanding that exceeds normal experience, as the same events are observed from countless perspectives. However, this knowledge does not necessarily bring satisfaction. When every outcome is known, surprise disappears, and with it, a key component of engagement. The world becomes predictable to the point of monotony, and the challenge shifts from understanding the system to finding ways to remain mentally stable within it. Creativity becomes one possible response. By introducing variation into actions, even within a fixed environment, it becomes possible to generate new experiences. Small changes, when combined in different ways, can produce outcomes that feel distinct, even if the underlying structure remains the same. Another response is detachment. Recognizing that external events do not persist, it becomes possible to reduce emotional investment in outcomes, focusing instead on the process rather than the result. This shift in perspective can provide a form of stability, allowing for continued engagement without reliance on progression. Over an extended period, the loop becomes less about the world and more about the internal state of the individual experiencing it. Without external change, internal development becomes the primary source of variation, and the focus shifts toward self-awareness, reflection, and the exploration of thought itself. The absence of consequences also raises ethical questions. If actions reset and do not carry forward, what defines right and wrong within the loop? Does the lack of lasting impact change the nature of decisions, or does internal consistency become the new standard? These questions highlight the complexity of existing in a system where traditional rules no longer apply. Eventually, the loop forces a confrontation with the concept of meaning. Without a future, meaning cannot be based on long-term goals or achievement. Instead, it must be found in the present moment, in the experience itself, and in the choices made within each cycle. The experience reveals that time, as normally understood, is not just a measurement but a framework that gives structure to life. Remove that framework, and the nature of existence changes fundamentally. The loop becomes not just a scenario, but a lens through which the importance of progression, change, and memory can be understood. And in the end, the most profound realization is not about escaping the loop, but about what remains when escape is no longer the goal. When the future disappears, the present becomes everything, and the question is no longer how to move forward, but how to exist in a moment that never ends.